Yeah.
All right, we're going to call the meeting of the Finance Committee to order on November 15th, 2023. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Alderman Alex Camo. Alderman Tyler Gouveia.
Here.
Alderwoman at Large Gloria Timmons. Here. Alderman at Large Melbourne Moran Jr.
Alderman Moran contacted me to say that he wanted to come by Zoom. He's ill and therefore can't come in person, but that there was a problem with the Zoom and he could not get on, so he's not here for that reason.
Alderman at Large Ben Clemens.
Here.
Alderman Patricia Klee, I'm here, and Mayor Donches.
Here. Public comment. Is there any member of the public who wishes to address the committee concerning an item on any item on the agenda? All right. No one comes forward. Communications. First communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager. Alderwoman Klee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In regards to copier lease and maintenance in the amount not to exceed $22,434 funded from 54828 copier lease / general funds. Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the Conway 60-month lease renewal / replacement for 3 copiers leases for community health, welfare, and administrative services with Conway Office and Xerox in the amount not to exceed $22,434. That is $373.90 per month. Funding will be through Department 120 Technology Maintenance Fund 54828 Copier Lease General Fund.
And Mr. Misevich is here on that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As stated in the memo, this is simply replacing 3 outdated copiers with newer technology. It's a one-for-one replacement, so really there's no additional cost. It's just we have to present it because it's a 60-month term.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager. Alderwoman Klee.
Regarding Ford Police Interceptor vehicle in the amount of $69,565.64 funded from 81500 vehicle / surf. Mr. Mayor, I motion to approve the purchase of 1 2024 marked K9 Ford Police Interceptor Utility Hybrid all-wheel drive vehicle from MHQ in the amount of $69,565.64. Funding will be through Department 150, Police Department Fund 81500 vehicle / surf.
Go ahead.
Brian Soika, National Police Department Fleet Supervisor. Yes, we are looking to replace the 2020 our older K9 vehicle with a new vehicle on the surf account with Plymouth County contract.
Okay. And you've begun, of course, getting the hybrid vehicles, which is great.
Yes.
Do you have any sense of how much you're saving in fuel costs as a result of using the hybrid as opposed to just the straight combustion engine vehicles?
Right at this point, we're looking at the hour meters on what the idling of these vehicles are. On a gas vehicle for 6 months, because I only can give it to you for 6 months, because we've only had the hybrids for about 6 months. A gas car roughly puts on 356 hours of idling time with the motor running. With the hybrids, we're down to 60 hours with the gas motor running. Huge difference.
That is a huge difference.
Big difference. So we are seeing a savings, yes, at this point.
It's good. Alderman Gouveia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to piggyback off of your question, with the reduced hours that they're idling, does that increase the longevity of how long we could have these cars for, or is it still relatively the same lifespan?
At this point, we really don't know. It possibly could be. We'll evaluate that when a little farther down the road. But like I say, it's only been 6 months now, so we really don't. We're already seeing like in brakes, we're not going through as many brakes with the hybrids versus the regular gas engine. So we're seeing things like that. So that is a possibility that the car could have to stay longer.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderwoman Clee.
In regards to the Ford Police Inceptor vehicle in the amount of $54,620.17, funded from 81500 vehicle/surf. Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the purchase of one marked 2024 Ford Police Interceptor Hybrid all-wheel drive vehicle from MHQ in the amount of $54,620.17. Funding will be through Department 150, Police Department, Fund 81500, Vehicle/Surf.
Again, it's the same thing we're doing in our replacement schedule. It is going to be a marked patrol vehicle that we're replacing.
Okay.
It's at its life expectancy at this point.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In regards to Ford Police Interceptor vehicle in the amount of $61,708.34, funded from 81500 vehicle/surf. I move to approve the purchase of one marked 2024 Ford Police Interceptor Hybrid all-wheel drive vehicle from MHQ in the amount of $61,708.34. Funding will be through Department 150, Police Department, Fund 81500, Vehicle/Surf.
This is actually another marked patrol vehicle, but it's a sergeant's vehicle, so it is equipped a little bit different than the regular marked units.
All right. Anyone? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. Ford, in regards to Ford Police Interceptor vehicles in the amount of $108,456.06, funded from 81500 Vehicle/Surf. I move to approve the purchase of two unmarked 2024 Ford Police Interceptor Hybrid all-wheel drive vehicles from MHQ in the amount of $108,457.06. Funding will be through Department 150, Police Department, Fund 81500, Vehicle/Surf.
This is going to be two unmarked vehicles, detective units. So of course, definitely equipped different and lettered, and no lettering on the vehicle, but solid colors. It's replacing a Chevy Impala and a Ford, actually two Chevy Impalas. One's 8, we've had it for 8 years, and the other one is 12 years. So we're at the place to replace them at this point.
Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you. Just a quick question. I probably should have asked it before. The vehicles that are being replaced, are they part of a trade-in? Or are we going to be keeping them, or do we sell them for salvage?
We are trading the two vehicles in, yes,
Okay, thank you.
due to the condition of the vehicles.
Thank you.
Just to follow up on that, could any of these vehicles, were they not traded in, be in good enough shape to not serve as a police cruiser, but as just a, vehicle around town kind of thing?
These two cars are in pretty tough shape due to rust issues. We're experiencing now that we can't even get parts for some of this stuff. They're no longer available from General Motors.
Okay.
But due to rust issues and stuff like that, they are in poor condition.
All right, next communication from Amy
Oh, we have to vote on
we
that.
didn't vote on it,
Yeah.
did we? Any other questions, discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderwoman Clee.
In regards to Ford Police Interceptor vehicles in the amount of $379,342.09, funded from 81500 Vehicle/Surf. I move to approve the purchase of 7 marked 2024 Ford Police Interceptor Hybrid and vehicles from MHQ in the amount of $379,342.09. Funding will be through Department 150, Police Department, Fund 81500, Vehicle/Surf.
Again, 7 marked patrol vehicles. Life expectancy was around 2.5 years. We're going to be at that point with 100,000 miles on them. So,
Just to follow up, I mean, there is a reason for me asking this again, but are any of these vehicles, do you think, in condition that they could be used as just a drive-around vehicle as opposed to a police cruiser, or
Well-
are these in bad shape as well?
usually when we get rid of any of our stuff, it's in poor condition. Otherwise, we'd be keeping them for additional years.
Okay.
Even to do a marked unit, to change it over, you'd have to repaint the vehicle, fill all the holes in the vehicles from all our antennas, light bars, stuff like that, spotlights. So there's a big expense just for that. But
Yeah, I get it.
they're tired when we get rid of them.
All right, any other questions, comments? Alderwoman Timmons.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one question. You said they're only 2 years old?
2.5 years, we keep our vehicles. Well, for patrol.
Patrol?
But everything's different, like a sergeant's is 4 to 5, unmarks are up to 10 years. So we look at the 200, to get the vehicle at 100,000 miles. That's usually at that point, they need major repairs. They're always in the shop being repaired or going to the dealer for some other items, but at that point, we did studies in the past, keeping them longer, and the expense of them was outrageous.
Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did a ride-along one evening with the officers, and the cars are in constant motion and movement, going around the city over and over again and passing, so I can see how in 2.5 years it could easily put on 100,000 or more miles. So most of these vehicles are just going around the city in patrol, is that correct? Is that what you
Yes,
were
that's what
commenting?
they're used for, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yeah, just to add to that, I've been on the board long enough to see that when we tried to keep the vehicles longer, and he's right, it did not work out well for the police department at all, and so that's when they came up with the 2-year schedule, and we've seen that it's much better, it works out much better for the department, and
Mayor,
Yeah,
Oh,
Alderwoman Timmons.
I understand the 2.5 years, but 100,000 miles, that's not quite a lot of miles these days.
But if you look at the idle hours of these vehicles, it's not like the regular vehicle that we would have. These cars idle more than, quite a bit. So if you're looking at idle hours, we're over 200,000-300,000 miles if you look at Ford's formula with the idle hours, not the odometer.
Okay. Just trying to understand, so.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And we were at one point 2 years on a marked car, and we changed it to 2.5. We went a little bit longer out.
All right, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. Prosecutor, in regards to prosecutor software in the amount of $69,025 funded from 55620 software subscription. I move to approve and award a 3-year contract for case management system prosecutor software with Carpal Solutions in the amount of $69,025. That's $58,900 license/install training and $10,125 annual support services. Funding will be through Department 150 Police Department, Fund 55620, software subscription.
Yes.
How you doing? I'm Captain Matt DeFaver. I oversee the legal bureau with the police department, and we're seeking, like they said, to acquire a dedicated prosecutor case management system. It's called Prosecutor by Carpel. Currently, the legal bureau processes approximately 3,000 to 4,000 cases a year without a system. For years, the legal bureau has operated with individual Excel and Word documents, which had limited capabilities. Prosecutor Bicarpel will streamline a lot of these court processes that we deal with. Some of the court processes are generating court documents, subpoenaing witnesses, preparing discovery, tracking court dispositions. So additionally, felonies are returning to district court next year, so we will be processing those cases through the system. So we'll add an increased caseload to the legal bureau. We looked at several systems. Every county attorney's office in New Hampshire, as well as the Manchester Solicitor's Office, uses this system, as well as 650 agencies across 32 states in the country. So this system will help us streamline a lot of the processes and help us work a lot more efficiently and effectively.
And what is happening with the felony cases?
Felonies First is coming back. It's called Felonies First Rewind. It is coming back into district court, where district court will process felony arraignments, bail hearings, and probable cause hearings. That changed in the summer of 2017, where the county attorneys handled all felonies directly.
Okay. Any, Alderman Govea?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to point of clarification. Did you say you were using Excel before to track this type of data?
Yeah, every prosecutor has an Excel document that has obviously limited capabilities. Each individual uses that system.
Sounds kind of dated.
A little bit.
Thank you.
That's my time.
All right, any other questions, comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In regards to contract for professional services for the AECom passenger rail in the amount not to exceed $300,000, funded from 53142 Consulting Services / Escrow. I move to approve and award a contract for professional consulting services to explore a Nashua First approach for passenger rail service with AECom Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $300,000. Funding will be through Department 106 Administrative Services Fund 53142 Consulting Services / Escrow.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to the committee. For the record, Tim Cummings, Administrative Services. And I rise before you this evening to ask for your favorable adoption of this contract. I've come to you previously on a few different occasions to speak to you about this contract in more detail. Essentially, what this is we're looking to explore a Nashua First approach. We are asking for the full $300,000 authorization. However, the contract is written where we will do an assessment after task one, so we're really only obligating ourselves to approximately $70,000, where we will do an assessment with the key critical stakeholders that would need to be involved in making an evaluation as to whether it was feasible for us to take a Nashua First approach, and then that if that was successful, we would continue on with the contract.
Alderwoman Timmons.
Thank you, Mayor. Director. Many times before, and I'm going back at least 20, 25 years ago, or maybe even longer, when rail service first came about, and we were talking about it before the mayor was the mayor, and then the mayor was the mayor, and all this stuff. One of the things that we did consulting services before, and we had studies before, and it went nowhere. And, you know, and it kind of irks me to say that we're doing another study, and maybe you can clarify why we keep doing the same study over and over again, because this is not a new thing. This is a very old thing that we did in the past. So what's new now?
Yes, thank you, and that's an excellent question, Alderwoman. So I guess I would start by saying the biggest difference now compared to the years past, and of course I wasn't privy to those conversations all the way back 20, 25 years ago, is that we're doing a Nashua First approach. As far as I understand it, we've always been working in good partnership with the state as much as possible, and they were exploring a bigger, more robust project. This would be more of an incremental assessment, and that's what this work would actually do for us to see if we could take a Nashua first approach to try to move it along through the process.
I would say this is in response to the Executive Council's action. The final planning for the Capitol Corridor Rail Project was 80% complete, and the Governor's Council halted the work, which seemed, even though it doesn't cost any state money to complete it.
Right.
So, you know, the state's work has stopped, and so this isn't really repeating anything. It's working off all the planning work that was done by AECOM for the state of New Hampshire DOT, and using that to see if, in the absence of state support for a full build-out to Manchester, whether we could use the work that's been done and adjust it to be Nashua first, Nashua only, Nashua first, and whether there might be federal support for that approach as opposed to the more comprehensive plan that was being investigated or planned for the state of New Hampshire. Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. I saw the article regarding the federal government dropping a lot of money on New England for upgrading, repairing, and so on, the rail. So I think that there's good chance of federal money hopefully potentially coming this way. I've also been doing, I have to do a speech on Saturday for the at Dunstable, Mass. About Nashua, and one of the things that I learned was that the very first rail that came to New Hampshire was here in Nashua. We actually had the first rail, so it sounds like a good idea to me to at least pursue what the state has done, kind of look at, see how we could adopt it to Nashua. I like the fact that we're doing this in two tasks, task 1 and task 2. Just looking at like $73,000, $74,000 to kind of see whether or not we really should go further. While this does say not to exceed the 300,000, we're taking baby steps on it, and I really do appreciate being put that way. I'm going to support this. I think the fact that the state has abandoned us because the northern portion of the state, or actually our own executive counselor, doesn't feel that Nashua is worthy of it. Fries my bacon, but putting that aside, I think that Nashua needs to take the bull by the horns and move forward, so I appreciate you bringing this forward to us, so I will support it.
Alderman Govea.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question for you. Was this the money that we reallocated for escrow?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And then on top of that, I'm fine with starting the study. I think it's a well worthwhile venture, but in at least my research of looking up at what the state has done in the past, it just seems we've had a study, we've then studied the study, and we have another study to study the two studies. And I would like to see out of this be a study we can look at and go, okay, if we're gonna execute a plan here, it's gonna be based off of this, and we don't get down a rabbit hole of commissioning 5, 6, 7 studies on the same project. I would like to see this really be, we're gonna look at one, we're gonna have it done, we're gonna make our judgment based off of that.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
I couldn't agree with you more, Alderman. One of the biggest differences is now we will be the client with AECOM, and so we will be able to have those very specific conversations, because I couldn't agree more. We should not be having study over study over study and not having any type of traction. What I would like to see come out of this, and one of the more disappointing elements of the state not moving forward with the AECOM contract a year or so ago, was that there's a lot of federal monies available right now, and you have to get to a certain point for the in your due diligence. I won't use the word study, but within your due diligence, within your design, to be able to gain access into some of these programs. And we were so very close. If we had just completed that contract with AECom, we would have been positioned then to look to file some federal applications for federal assistance and federal grants. A goal of mine is to put us in a position where we will know how far we may be from being able to make those types of applications. I suspect we will need to do some additional due diligence, some additional design. We shouldn't commit to that until we know what the roadmap looks like. But if we do this now, we will have an understanding, and then you can make an assessment whether you want to proceed.
I mean, I would add that that was the point of the work that was going on at the state level, that there'd been a quote, study completed, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, which said, this is feasible. So what the state was doing was not deciding, looking at that, it was, okay, how could this be actually executed? And doing some design work, environmental impact work, working with MBTA to see, how they would run the system, to work with them to run the system, and to create a concrete plan that could be submitted to the federal government for their approval and financial participation. And that's the work that was the work that was stopped. Yes,
I have a
Alderman
quick
Govea.
follow-up, if that's okay, to Director Cummings. So you said to be able to kind of access these federal funds, did you say you would see another round of studying or due diligence, if you will, before you would have access to that? So there'd be more on top of what this 300,000 would get you?
I believe so. I don't know what that number would be.
Sure.
But I think the answer is yes, there would be some additional. Everything needs to be done in a very prescriptive way when you're dealing with these federal agencies and they have these requirements. So what this will do is give us an assessment and a roadmap. Then we will need to execute on that roadmap. And when we get to a certain point along the road, then we would have access to the federal monies. I think we're very close. And that's why I want to use AECom in the sense because we can piggyback on their prior work instead of starting all over again.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yeah, I have a question, a couple questions. One is, in all of this, I assume that we have some general sense that the MBTA is on board with expanding the service up here?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, we have a general sense. It is absolutely something that they are interested in. It needs to be a little bit more detailed of a conversation than that. But if that is what you're looking for, I can make those representations to you. But as by way of an example, I think there's some critical conversations that need to, occur. Is the MBTA interested in coming to New Hampshire and stopping in Nashua, or is it continuing all the way up to the airport? I don't know that answer. If they do come into New Hampshire, do they need to have what's considered a layover station for their trains at night? And if that is something that they're interested in, we as a municipality need to be aware of what these requirements are, whatever they may be, so we can put it into the design and our fact finding, so we can have a successful application at the federal level. O&M, operations and management, understanding what ridership forecasts would be. All those elements would go into that more detailed level of a conversation with the MBTA. And that's what this would do for us. But if it's just a very cursory, are they interested? I think I know the answer is yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Are Chelmsford and Tingsboro interested in partnering with us as well?
I can say Tingsboro. We've had conversations with Tingsboro. I know they are absolutely interested in seeing rail expand up beyond Lowell. Haven't had as direct conversations with Chelmsford. I have spoken to some regional economic development agencies along the Route 3 or Everett Turnpike. They've all expressed an interest or a desire in seeing it.
You know, it's an interesting day to be discussing this because, of course, a tanker truck turned over on Route 3 today
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm aware.
and shut it down in both directions. And they're questioning whether it's even going to be open tomorrow. Alderman Clemens.
Yeah, I'm aware, Mr. Mayor. I was stuck in that traffic trying to get home and get to this meeting, so I'm keenly aware of it. But the reason I ask is because when I was on the Board of Aldermen back in 2009, I worked in Chelmsford, and they were at that time interested in expanding the line from Lowell to Chelmsford, and they wanted to do it and get a station, I think, in North Chelmsford along the line. And obviously that never happened. But I ask because if we're going to do a Nashua First approach and we're going to spend money on this, I'm wondering if we can get the communities in the South to partner with us and spend some of this money. I think this initial contract is a worthwhile venture, but what I would like to see in the future is us trying to partner with those two communities to see if they will come on board and put some money up towards this project.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I completely agree with you. I've started to lay that groundwork. I've had conversations with a couple local stakeholders. We will continue those conversations because we would absolutely like to build a coalition. It needs to be more than just Nashua. And I fully anticipate when we enter into the conversations with the MBTA is going to have some of these ideas in the back of their mind as well.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you. If I remember correctly, when the state was doing this, there was conversations with MBTA Massachusetts that they would be willing to kick in dollars at some point as long as we went up to the airport in Manchester. I think that was their caveat, is that it had to go up to that far. With your just initial there, do you feel that that's kind of where their thinking would be?
A layover station.
Yeah.
It's as I understand it, and again, this is all subject to further discussions and confirmation, but the MBTA is keenly interested in providing space for their trains to overnight because they have to run a train out to come back in the mornings, and that's operationally not very effective for them. So if they could warehouse or store or garage, whatever terminology you want to use, the trains at the end of the line, wherever that end of the line may be, I believe that is something that would be of interest to them. I would not dare to suggest what the financial interest would be. That would be another conversation with them, but that was, I believe, the scenario that was previously discussed.
Thank you.
All right, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager. Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In regards to purchase of new firewall devices and subscription services in the amount of $85,298 funded from 55699, other contracted services / risk internal services fund. Mr. Mayor, I move to approve and award a contract for new firewall devices and subscription services for 5 years with New Era Technologies in the amount of $85,298. Funding will be through Department 122 Information Technology Fund 55699, other contracted services / risk internal service fund.
Mr. Misevich.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nick Miservich, Chief Information Officer for the City of Nashua. This is to replace the existing firewalls on the municipality network because the current vendor has announced they are end of life and will no longer be supported. So we want to get ahead of that and get these in place, as well as upgrade the library's device, since their network communicates directly with the municipality's network, and it does not make sense to have them at something lower and be a potential point of interception for cyber attacks.
Anyone? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Wait, well, let's recognize it first.
Okay.
Let's get through this.
Aye.
Motion passes. Now, I see on the screen that Alderman Moran may be a participant in the meeting at this point.
Yes, thank you. I apologize. I wasn't sent the Zoom link earlier today, and Alderman Klee was kind enough to send it to me.
All right, so you are now present as of
7:35.
7:35. Next communication is from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager. Alderwoman Klee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Contract for Internet Services and POTS lines in the amount of $61,000 per year funded from 55109 Telecommunications Telephone Voice / 55105 Date Internet. Mr. Mayor, I motion to approve and award a 5-year contract for the remaining phone POTS lines and internet service with Consolidated Communications Information Technology Fund 55109 Telecommunications Telephone Voice / General Fund $51,000. 55105 Data Internet General Fund $10,000.
Mr. Misevich.
Again, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nick Miserich, Chief Information Officer. This is to bring our exploding costs for the POTS lines throughout the city. It's not only for city, it's also schools, it's also library, it's also PD, it's also fire. So it's all encompassing. It's the technology is unfortunately being outdated, and the main providers are trying to get the resellers out of the market, and the resellers are trying to get out of the market as well. So, I mean, they just increased costs again a month ago. So these POTS lines are now $100 a month each. So it adds up quick. So this will almost cut that in half for the next 5-year period.
Okay. Anyone?
Alderman Moran has his hand.
Alderman Moran.
My apologies, just housekeeping for a right-to-know request and such in public meetings. I am alone in my home, and no one else is here with me during the meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right, so any questions on this item? If not, could you please call the roll?
Sure. I have to run back to my sheet here. Alderman Govea.
Yes.
Alderwoman at Large Gloria Timmons.
Yes.
Alderman at Large Melbourne Moran Jr.
Yes.
Alderman at Large Ben Clemens.
Yes.
Alderman Klee says yes, and Mayor Donches.
Yes, motion passes.
That's 6 yeas.
Thank you.
Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderwoman Klee.
Thank you. In regards to road salt in the amount not to exceed $545,000 funded from 61515 Salt / General Fund. Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the purchase of winter road salt for FY24 from Granite State Minerals and Eastern Minerals Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $545,000. Funding will be through Department 161 Streets, Fund 61514, Salt / General Fund.
Mr. Ibarra?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is our annual expenditure for salt out of the street operating budget. It's just for our winter road salt. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I have one question.
Alderwoman Timmons?
Thank you, Mayor. The question, was this amount of salt last the whole winter, or would we have to come back?
Unpredictable.
Okay.
It depends on what type of winter season we have.
It's supposed
We've
to have
been
a
fortunate to have some relatively easy winters recently,
Mhm.
so we haven't gone after any change orders or gotten into the trust fund. But we'll have to wait and see what this winter brings for us.
Okay.
Alderman Clemmons.
Well, I had a similar question. I didn't know how much we ended up, did we deplete our salt pile last year?
I ended up with probably half a barn full. It's probably about 1,500 ton left from last season due to the milder season.
Okay. So theoretically, we saved money there.
Yes, we did. And the brining, when we can use it, that helps save the city a lot of money. Now, last year, we came in a lot of wet vents to start, so we weren't able to brine as often, and then sub-zero. So that cut into our brining operation. But really, it's what Mother Nature throws at us on what application we're going to use on the road treatment.
Yeah, understood. Thank you.
All right.
No, he answered my question.
All those in favor of the motion say
We
aye.
have to do roll call.
Oh, sorry,
That's
sorry,
okay.
roll call,
That's okay.
roll call.
Yes. Alderman Guevara,
Yes.
Alderwoman at Large Timmons,
Yes.
Alderman at Large Moran,
Yes.
Alderman at Large Ben Clemmons,
Yes.
Alderwoman Clee says yes, and Mayor Donches.
Yes,
That's 6 yeas.
motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Purchase of 2 Ford F-250 four-wheel drive pickup trucks in the amount of $115,476 funded from 81500 vehicle/surf. I move to approve the purchase of 2 2024 Ford F-250s four-wheel drive pickup trucks with the plow package from Grapponi Ford in the amount of $115,476. That is $57,738 each. Funding will be through Department 161, Streets Fund 81500, Vehicle/Surf. By roll call.
Mr. Ibarra?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this will be the replacement of 2 fleet vehicles that we use for construction season and for winter operations, as well as transporting crews to the job site. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Anyone?
With me tonight is the fleet manager, Mike Rush, who can also assist if we get into technical questions.
Okay. I don't see any questions. Please call the roll.
Alderman Guevara,
Yes.
Alderwoman at Large Timmons,
Yes.
Alderman at Large Moran,
Yes.
Alderman at Large Clemmons,
Yes.
Alderman Clee says yes, and Mayor Donches.
Yes,
That's
motion
6
passed.
yeas.
All right, next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderwoman Clee.
In regards to purchase of 1 Ford F-150 electric pickup truck in the amount of $53,746 funded from 81500 vehicle/surf. I motion to approve the purchase of 1 2024 Ford F-150 four-wheel drive electric pickup truck from Grapponi Ford in the amount of $53,746. Funding will be through Department 161 Streets, Fund 81500, Vehicle/Surf. By roll call.
Mr. Ibarra?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this will replace a CNG vehicle, be utilized within the division. As you know, at the new DPW facility, we have 5 charging stations. And with the new city's initiative to go electric, we decided to make a purchase on this 150. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Alderman Clemmons?
Yeah, my question is, what is this vehicle used for? The replacement, like, what are you using it for?
I believe this vehicle will be out of admin engineering. The assistant director will be driving this vehicle as our first electric vehicle purchase. And since they have the charging station there, it'll be utilized out of that facility.
Alderman Clemmons?
Yeah, the only reason I ask is because the F-150 electric has mixed reviews as far as its reliability and what it can do when, for example, if you're towing or if you have a large payload in the back of it, it reduces the amount of miles you can drive on the electric charge goes down and that sort of thing. So I didn't know if that's what we were looking to do with this pickup truck in particular.
It won't be in that kind of service, no. This will be our first electrical vehicle on our end of things. And Mike Rush has been doing a lot of homework as a fleet manager, making the procurement. And if you'd like to ask him any questions, he's here this evening.
Mr. Rush, did you hear that question?
Yes, I did. So we acquired this through the state bid contract with the state of New Hampshire. I guess they're also purchasing some of these Ford F-150s through various departments throughout the state. I think the Department of Motor Vehicles, maybe even state police for certain things. We did put a little research into this one. This one does come with a bigger battery, so it's a little bit more robust as far as how far it's going to go if we have payloads in it and things of that nature. It also has an onboard, little onboard like generator that we can plug stuff into on job sites if we need to and things like that. So this is the first one of its kind for us for this division. So we're hoping, you know, with the research that we put into this, that this is a smart thing for us to do, to replace the CNG pickup truck that'll be coming off the road in the next year or two.
Alderman Clemmons?
Yeah, I'd like you, I mean, I guess due diligence, right? I don't mind supporting this contract and that, but I would like to know, you know, and I'm sure you would too, what, before we go out and buy another one, whether or not this works out for what we want it to do. Because I'm all for electric vehicles and everything, but it has to make sense. So I think this is a good test.
Alderwoman Clee?
Thank you. I just want a clarification based on what Alderman Clemmons had asked. This is basically just being more of an administrative vehicle. It's not going to be a payload workhorse type of thing. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Alderman Govea?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with my at-large colleague just because this is kind of the first full electric vehicle we're buying for the department. I think it would be important to get some kind of feedback on how it goes, maybe at the 6-month, year kind of period of if this is working or if it's not. And the one question I had is, what was the price difference between the electric truck and a traditional gas truck?
If we are looking at a F-150, I think the last F-150 that we purchased was in 2020, I believe, and I believe that was for $53,000 with some upfitted equipment with it, strobe lights, some arrow sticks, radio equipment.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? All right.
Alderman Moran.
Yeah.
Alderman Moran?
Yeah, just to follow up on that. So you're saying the F-150 from a couple of years ago was about the same price as this current electric vehicle?
They are pretty close in comparison with the contracted price. We did get some discounts on this, some heavy discounts on this vehicle, which helped the cost a little bit, at least this time around. Next year, I don't know. They're already talking about a 35% increase on Ford vehicles. I don't know what the other manufacturers will have for us this year, but that's what we're looking at now.
A follow-up, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
When you say a 35% increase on Ford vehicles, does that mean electric vehicles or all their vehicles?
I believe it has to do with their current contracting that they're going through. Don't hold me to that 35%. That's what's circulating around in the news media, but all my sales guys seem to think that that's what it's going to be for the price increase for all vehicles, not just electric vehicles.
Right. Thank you. Just maybe one more follow-up, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, yes.
The reason why I'm asking is just to see if it's cost prohibitive to electric. It seems like it's about the same price regardless, and if there was an increase, even upwards of 35%, it would be across all vehicles, gas, hybrid, electric. Could you tell me if there's any additional savings to having an electric vehicle? Like, would we save on the cost of gas? I understand we would also have to pay to charge at a municipal parking lot, but what other cost of savings would there be associated with electric vehicles?
Yeah, so what I've come across is it seems like the price of how the electric is measured to charge the vehicle and the price of regular gasoline is pretty close in price. At this time, I mean, that obviously fluctuates from season to season. The other thing with the electric is, you're not wearing down your brakes. You're not doing regular maintenance like you would do on a gasoline or diesel truck. So you're going to save some savings there as well. So if you're looking at the comparison of the price between a gasoline engine and an electric vehicle right now, for this particular vehicle, there's a maintenance cost savings that we haven't really had time to research yet, but it looks like we're going to save money on the maintenance end and on the fuel end a little bit.
That's great. I'm sure the work that we do with community power will keep our rates lower than other municipalities when it comes to charging electric vehicles. And the only reason I point these things out is that I know there's some thought processes out there that electric vehicles are more expensive, harder to maintain, et cetera. But as the technology develops, it usually gets easier and less complicated to figure out when you have mechanics involved. And on top of it, seems like everything's at minimum a net, no net loss or gain. It's just sitting idle, no pun intended, but the added environmental impact of not using gasoline for our municipal vehicles, excellent. I do agree with my colleagues that we should get some feedback on the actual quality of the vehicle versus the diesels, but overall it seems like switching to EV at this point in stage is a good idea, unless we get negative feedback that it's just not doing the job that it needs to do for the city.
This purchase, should it pass, will definitely be recorded heavily to see where we end up. I'm going to do quarterly reports and keep track of the fuel and, compared to the electric with another vehicle that we have, just so that we have some comparisons for when we go for the next one.
Great. Thank you so much, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the questions.
You're welcome.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yeah, I agree with my previous colleague, Alderman Moran, on most of that. My concern was when you're talking about like if you use this to plow the streets, for example, it's not going to last all night because and stuff like that. And so, or if you're using it to haul, it's not going to go as far as a regular gas-powered car. And so that was where my question was on this, was how is this going to be utilized? It sounds like it's not going to be utilized for those types of things. So I think, in my opinion, that's fine. But if we were to get to that point where we're switching over to electric vehicles to do things like snow plow and stuff like that, we have to be careful because it takes long to charge, number one, and you don't want to have to be doing that in the middle of a snowstorm. You want the cars to be out there, the plows to be out there, stuff like that. So that was kind of where I was going with this. Obviously, this is one vehicle, but that was kind of my thought process on that. So,
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Alderman Moran.
Just a statement. I agree with everything Alderman Clemmons just said. Completely agree that if those vehicles end up being used for that work, we need to make sure that it's going to be able to commit to the job before we even buy it. But I think in this case, it's not that type of vehicle we're using it for. But can't agree more with Alderman Clemmons.
All right. Anyone else? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Sure. Alderman GOV,
Yes.
Alderman at Large Timmons,
Yes.
Alderman at Large Moran,
Yes.
Alderman at Large Clemmons,
Yes.
Alderman Clee says yes, and Mayor Donches.
Yes.
That's
Motion-
6 yeas.
6 yeas, motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager. Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Purchase, in regards to purchase of trackless tractor with plow package in the amount of $181,040 funded from 81500 vehicle/surf. Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the purchase of one 2024 trackless tractor with plow package from HP Fairfield in the amount of $181,040. Funding will be through Department 161 Streets, Fund 81500, vehicle/surf, by roll call.
Mr. Ibarra?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this trackless vehicle is used in multiple ways. We use it with our asphalt grinding, road sweeping, sidewalk cleaning, and sidewalk clearing with a snow blower or plow attachment. We also have a sickle bar mower for roadside mowing. So it's a multi-tool, and it will join our fleet for those operations. We did put 2 out of service recently, so we're down. So we're trying to build the fleet back up so we can provide the ultimate level of service. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Anyone? Madam Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Yes. Alderman GOV,
Yes.
Alderwoman at Large Timmons,
Yes.
Alderman at Large Moran,
Yes.
Alderman at Large Clemmons,
Yes.
Alderman Clee says yes, and Mayor Donches.
Yes.
That's 6 yeas.
Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager. Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In regards to purchase of Freightliner fifth wheel tractor in the amount of $146,623, funded from 81500 vehicles/surf. Mr. Mayor, I motion to approve the purchase of one 2024 Freightliner cab and chassis tandem axle fifth wheel tractor with hydraulic package from Viking Sieves in the amount of $146,623. Funding will be through Department 161 Streets Fund 81500 vehicle/surf, by roll call.
Mr. Ibarra?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this will be replacing our 1996 single axle 6-wheel tractor with a 5th wheel plate. And we'll have a more robust tractor that we use on a daily basis to pull our 35-ton low bed, which moves our equipment from site to site, whether it's project-based or emergency sewer dig. This is utilized on a daily basis. So this is a key component to the street department operations. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on this purchase.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Yes. Alderman GOV,
Yes.
Alderman at Large Timmons,
Yes.
Alderman at Large Moran,
Yes.
Alderman at Large Clemmons,
Yes.
Alderman Clee says yes, and Mayor Donches.
Yes.
That's 6 yeas.
Motion passes. Next item, again, a communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager. Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you. In regards to change order number 3 in the amount not to exceed $8,055, no, I jumped, didn't I? Yes, I'm sorry, I apologize. I jumped one. Okay, in regards to purchase of a lighting structure system in the amount of $198,308, funded from 71620 Lighting Equipment Trust. Mr. Mayor, I motion to approve the purchase of a 2023 light structure system with total light control, TLC for LED technology pursuant to the Sourcewell contract number 041123-MSL at the David Dean Park Tennis Courts with Musco Sports Lighting LLC in the amount of $198,308. Funding will be through Department 177 Parks and Recreation, Fund 71620 Lighting Equipment/Trust.
All right, and Mr. Conant is here on Zoom.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Superintendent Brian Conant. This is to replace the current lights over at the tennis courts in David Dean Park on Sergeant Ave, adjacent to Centennial Pool Home Stadium. The current lights are in pretty rough shape and are in need of replacement. I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Alderman Govea?
Yes.
Alderwoman at Large Timmons?
Yes.
Alderman at Large Moran?
Yes.
Alderman at Large Clemmons?
Yes.
Alderman Cleese says yes, and Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
That's 6 yeas.
Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In regards to change order number 3, in the amount not to exceed $8,055, funded from 81200 Buildings and Improvement / General Fund. Mr. Mayor, I move to approve change order 3 to the contract with Doobie's General Contracting for the door upgrade project in an amount not to exceed $8,055. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater Fund 81200 Buildings and Improvements General Fund, by roll call.
Mr. Boucher?
Thank you, Mayor. Dave Boucher, wastewater superintendent. This is change order 3 for the contract we have with Doobie General Contracting. We've been replacing and repairing doors throughout the wastewater facility, all age doors. This was for the repair of our last door in the contract. Unfortunately, the door was determined to be beyond repair and has to be replaced. The existing door is an 8-foot steel door with a built-in 6-foot window above it. The whole frame would have to be removed. It's going to be replaced with a 7-foot steel door, fire-rated door, because it's part of a stairwell. And the upper portion where the glass window will be framed in, insulated, and sided. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone? Madam?
I have a question.
Oh, Alderman
Yeah.
Moran.
Yeah, thank you. This is more just maybe a clarifying question on the process of repairs and how we contract and stuff like that. But you're saying this is work order number 3. When they gave a bid on the job, did they look at every single door that they planned to repair? Did they make an assessment of what needed to be done when they gave us the initial quote? What changed, that kind of stuff? This is more just for my education, like what was the process of putting it out to bid, looking at what needs to be fixed? Do they come in and look at every single piece that needs to be fixed and saying this is the price? And I'm just curious, like, what they didn't catch, if that was the process.
Yes, that is correct. They do come in and visit the site, look at every door before they bid. In this case, there was some internal damage on the door casing. Initially, we thought it was rot, but during closer inspection on this particular door, because they're such heavy doors, it was determined that where the hinges attached to the inside of the frame, fortunately, these frames are filled with concrete, and on the inside of the frame, there's a steel ridge. Once they bend, they can't be replaced. You have to bust out the whole door frame, and they're not salvageable. So they didn't detect that the frame was bent because all the doors are hung and all the hinges were hung. It wasn't until they started to remove the doors to do the repair work that they determined that the frame was beyond repair. So once you unbend that frame from that ridge that's on the inside of the casing, it's weakened, so any door you hang on there would still sag. So they can't replace that ridge. And unfortunately, this door is part of the window above it. And it's all encased. It's just a lot larger. So to reduce the cost, we're having the window eliminated because it's not on the sunny side of the building anyway. It's just going to be encased with wood and then have a vinyl siding on the outside.
That's great. Just a follow-up statement, Mr. Mayor.
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, so awesome to hear that we're going to save money as a result of this. But just rephrasing back what I heard, just so I understand it, is that a bidder comes out, they take a look at what they can see via a visual inspection, but you just don't know what's going on, what some internal functionings of whatever might be being fixed until you actually start doing the work. And that's why there's a cost associated with the work order change. Just like if I'm having something repaired in my home, like putting I don't know, a bathroom in the basement and they hit a stone that they didn't expect, you can't tell there's a stone under the concrete until you actually start digging. I'm just using that analogy to help the people at home also hear what I heard, but in a more relatable sense.
Yes, thank you.
Anyone else? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Alderman Govea?
Yes.
Alderman at Large Timmons?
Yes.
Alderman at Large Moran?
Yes.
Alderman at Large Clemmons?
Yes.
Alderman Clee says yes, and Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
6 yeas.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderwoman Clee.
Yes, in regards to engineering services in the amount of $275,680, funded from 53107, architect and engineering services / bond. I move to approve the engineering services for the professional services for the sewer rehabilitation program with Hayner Swanson Incorporated in the amount of $275,680. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater Fund 53107, architect and engineering services / bond. By roll call.
Mr. Hudson?
Good evening, Dan Hudson, City Engineer. So the Engineering Department manages the city's sewer and drain collection system rehabilitation work, working with wastewater. That includes CCTV, pipelining, structures, and pipe replacement. This effort's significant given the amount of pipes we have in the city and the work we do. Therefore, we need to engage the services of an engineering company to assist us. Hayner Swanson is a local company. They have provided this service before. They assist us with reviewing sewer videos, coordinating with utility companies, coordinating efforts with the paving program, preparing plans and specifications, and assisting with bidding questions, and then also in the field providing construction administration support. So we're looking to engage them again to assist with a number of projects that we have ongoing. And I'd be happy to address any questions.
Anyone? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Alderman Govea?
Yes.
Alderman at Large, Alderwoman at Large Timmons?
Yes.
Alderman at Large Moran?
Yes.
Alderman at Large Clemmons?
Yes.
Alderman Clee says yes, and Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
That's 6 yeas.
Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the last one. In regards to engineering services in the amount not to exceed $293,700, funded from 5317, architect and engineering services / bond. Mr. Mayor, I move to approve engineering services contract for the Walnut Street Oval intersection project with Hoyle, Tanner and Associates Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $293,700. Funding will be through Department 160, Admin / Engineering Fund 5317, Architect and Engineering Services / bond. By roll call.
Mr. Hudson?
Again, for the record, Dan Hudson, City Engineer. This is the first part of the Walnut Oval project. I think we've spoken of it before. Most of you are familiar, but this is a project being completed through the state's local project administration process, where the state's picking up 80% of the cost of this project. Hoyle Tanner was selected through a qualifications-based selection process. They'll be we're seeking to have them be the ones to do this design work. The first part of the project is an engineering study where you evaluate all the various alternatives and project what impacts the project will have, and go through a couple of public meetings and select the preferred alternative for the project, which then you would take the final design and ultimately for bidding. So we're seeking to enter into this contract. I will note, we took this to the Board of Public Works. At that time, we didn't have the full contract negotiated, so the number that was noted in the motion has since been reduced as per the backup in the packet. It's reduced to $208,000, $208,450. Sorry. So should you desire, you could amend the motion down to that number, and that would cover what we're looking to do during this portion of the work.
So does the maker of the motion amend the motion as outlined by Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
All right. Any questions?
I just want to make sure that I have that correct number. If you could repeat that.
Sure, yes, $208,459.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Sure. Alderman GOV,
Yes.
Alderman at Large Timmons,
Yes.
Alderman at Large Moran,
Yes.
Alderman at Large Clemmons,
Yes.
Alderman Clee says yes, and Mayor Donches.
Yes.
And that's 6 yeas.
Thank you very much.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item is an emergency change order request. If there's no objection, we'll accept that and place it on file. Unfinished business, we have none. Table in committee, none. New business resolutions and ordinances, none. Record of expenditures, Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the Finance Committee has compiled with the city charter an ordinance pertaining to the records of expenditures for the periods of October 13th, 2023 to October 26th, 2023, and for October 27th, 2023 to November 9th, 2023, by roll call.
Please call the roll.
Yes. Alderman GOV,
Yes.
Alderman at Large Timmons.
Yes.
Alderman at Large Moran,
Yes.
Alderman at Large Clemmons,
Yes.
Alderman Clee says yes, and Mayor Donches.
Yes.
6 yeas.
Motion passes. General discussion. Anybody have general discussion? Public comment. Any member of the public wish to address the Finance Committee? No one here. Remarks by aldermen. Do any aldermen have remarks?
Alderman Moran has raised his hand.
Alderman Moran.
Thank you. Again, I just want to apologize to members of the public for arriving late. Some may know, I'm at home recovering from surgery, and I would prefer to be in person, and I appreciate my colleagues allowing me to be more chatty than I usually am to catch up on half the meeting that I missed to make it up on the other half. And then second to that, happy Thanksgiving to everyone, and I hope you guys in the city enjoy the time with your families during the holiday.
Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you. For those out there that are listening, the city is having a recount of the Board of Ed due to a very close race, and the City Clerk Healy is looking for volunteers that will help with that recount. He's looking for 40. I know I've gotten them too, so it's only 38 more to go. Anybody who's interested, if they would just contact Dan Healy at healyD@nashua.nh.gov. If you go to the city clerk's office, I think it's 603-589-3010, if you need to call them. But he is accepting people coming. It starts at 9 o'clock on this Saturday. Thank you.
Anyone else? Alderman Clemmons.
Motion to adjourn.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Alderman Gouveia?
Yes.
Alderman at Large Timmons?
Yes.
Alderman at Large Moran Jr.?
Yes.
Alderman at Large Clemmons?
Yes.
Alderman Clee says yes, and Mayor Donches.
Yes.
Very much so.
And the meeting of the Finance Committee is adjourned at 8:14 p.m.